Eye on Horror, the official podcast of iHorror.com. This is episode 113, otherwise known as season 6, episode 14. I am your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, is your other host, Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Could be better. Just had some oral surgery yesterday, so feeling a little sore.
Are you on painkillers?
Yes.
Ah, right. We got drugged up Jacob today. This is going to be fun.
It's not even like like actual drugs. It's just like high dose ibuprofen.
Oh, that's not fun. All right. Well, we'll pick up the talking where you can't. Also with us, as always, is your other host, John Correa. How you doing, Correa?
They didn't even give you the strong stuff. That happened to me when I had my wisdom teeth taken out. They gave me the really strong ibuprofen, and I was so disappointed. I was like, "Oh man!" Went home and just once the operation drugs wore off, I was just like, "Oh man, I guess I'll just sit here and watch Drugs Inc. all day."
Didn't even give you Tylenol with codeine.
No.
What's been going on? What have you guys been see anything good lately?
I saw one of my favorite movies of the year in theaters.
Let's hear it.
Did you guys see Bottoms yet?
Yes.
No,
I love Bottoms.
Oh man, Bottoms is fucking fantastic. It's the same team who did Shiva Baby, and which is also brilliant. If you haven't watched that, first of all, I think it's on Max or Hulu, but definitely get the Blu-ray because the Blu-ray disc is a bagel with schmear. It's one of my favorite artworks. But Bottoms was directed by Emma Seligan, and it's got Rachel. I'm butchering names this morning. Rachel Sennott, who is also in Shiva Baby, and they wrote it as well. But Bottoms is just when you think that the teenage sex comedy is dead, Bottoms comes out and goes, no, it's not dead. It just needs to not be boring white guys trying to lose their virginity. Instead, we get angry lesbian incels who try to get laid by starting a fight club in their school.
Yeah, I love that they're constantly referred to as the ugly, untalented gays.
Yes. No, gays are accepted, just not the untalented or ugly ones. Look, the whole movie. They're just so angry. It's great.
And also, it's just got the right amount of absurdity to it. It's almost like a cartoon, and there is a lot of violence and just kind of it's like the Heathers type thing where it's like the school hierarchy stuff is serious business.
Oh yeah. There's so many great moments in it, and it's also wears its heart on its sleeves, the comedy's there, but it's just all around really good. And I think I'll watch pretty much anything with Rachel Sennott at this point, because between Bottoms, Shiva Baby, and Bodies, she's killing it.
Let's move on to something that's remotely horror.
That's remotely horror. They beat the shit out of each other.
I saw A Haunting in Venice.
Oh shit!
It's not A Haunting in Connecticut 3, Ghosts of Georgia 2, A Haunting in Venice. It's an Agatha Christie adaptation that Kenneth Branagh has been doing those the last few years. He did Murder on the Orient Express and then Death on the Nile, and now he's doing A Haunting in Venice. It's after the Agatha Christie book Halloween Party, and it actually is. I mean, it's a murder mystery at its core, but it's also kind of a supernatural ghost story, because what it is they go to this house that, the whole thing is Tina Fey plays an author, I guess, kind of like Agatha Christie. And Hercule Poirot is kind of in isolation, kind of retired, semi-retired. And she's an old friend of his. So she brings him out of retirement. She says, look, there's this medium doing this seance on Halloween, and it's this close to having me as a believer. I need you to come with me and disprove this. So he goes there to disprove this seance. And of course, at the seance, people die. So it is like a spooky ghost story because they're kind of in this haunted place when it happens. But, and Hercule Poirot is Kenneth Branagh with one of the most amazing mustaches you're ever going to see on a movie character. And he does his stuff. In fact, at one point when the bodies start not piling up, but after the first body, because there's more than one murder. When the first body goes, there's a storm, and it's in Venice, so the police can't get to them on the canals, and this is the big moment where he's coming out of retirement. He goes, "Call the police. Tell them Perot is on the case." It's real dramatic, but it's fun. It's another one of those movies that I'm not sure why they didn't wait another month and do it for Halloween. It's because it is real spooky, and it actually takes place on Halloween. It's just I don't know, but anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Is everyone scared to compete with Saw X? Is that what's happening? Well, I know people are scared to compete with the Eras Tour movie because they bumped up Exorcist Believer for that. But it seems like even before that, everyone's like, no, don't touch October. Jigsaw's back. Like, we're not touching that.
I'm not gonna lie. I am kind of excited for that Eras Tour movie because going to the Eras Tour doesn't excite me just because I think the live music experience, unless it's in, a club that holds like 80 people, I'm kind of over. Plus the expense of, I couldn't even afford to park at one of those shows, but I kind of do want to see the show. So,
all my friends who've been to one of our concerts were like, it's fucking insane. And like the videos I've seen of it, I'm like, yeah, if that's shot well, like that would be insane. Even if you're just kind of into her,
Did you guys? We're going off like lots of non-horror tangents today. Did you guys see Miss Americana, the Netflix documentary about Taylor Swift?
No.
It's weird because I mean I could take or leave her music. But as a person, I really like her. She's got her head on straight. She doesn't take any crap, and it's just she's just a really likable and seems like a really genuine person. If Miss Americana is the documentary, and it's kind of hangs out with her while she basically came out against Trump, and stuff. So that was like a big, she's at one point she's sitting with her publicist, and it might even be her mom, and she's about to tweet out, her thoughts about, politics. And she's all, "Do we do this? I'm scared. I'm scared." And her publicist is like, "I'm scared for you." This could really, because she's from Tennessee, Kentucky, she's from, the area that she's not supposed to think that way, but she's very progressive. But yeah, I'm low key excited for that Eras Tour movie, honestly.
But anyways, back to Haunting in Venice, because I'm very interested because I like the Hercule movies, and I was they didn't shoot it in secret, but it felt like it because it was like during COVID, and like, Death at the Nile was like got super fucked both in just like timing with COVID, and then the fact that like, the two of the leads came out as like, well, one extremely problematic and then one kind of, and then it was just like and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, no, he shot a third one, and it was like, what? When did he shoot a third one? When did he have the time?
It doesn't have quite the size of cast as the other two, which might be a symptom of COVID. And it also doesn't have as many big names. Michelle Yeoh is in it.
Yeah.
She plays the medium. And she's a lot of fun. And like Jamie Dornan is in it. And
love him.
The woman from Stillwater with Matt Damon, what's her name? Camille Cotton is in it. So it doesn't have huge names. Tina Fey, aside from Kenneth Branagh, Tina Fey might be the biggest name in it, but so it's not quite, I mean, the other ones were just star-studded ensembles, and this one's a little more low key. It's a lot of, I know that face. Yeah. Cool. And it does have that spooky, there's places in it where you're like, wait, was that character real? You're like, or was that a ghost? It's more than just a murder mystery. It's kind of like a haunted house movie too.
Now, I know we got the origin of his mustache and Death of the Nile, but do we get any more origins of other eccentric attributes to Hercule?
I don't think so. I know, because it starts off where he's like basically in seclusion, and there are people lined up at his door saying, "Hey, can you help me solve this mystery?" And he is like not. It's funny because it shows him with like a magnifying glass and like a fingerprint brush, but he's tending his garden with it. He's not.
So this is basically the Commando of the Agatha Christie movies.
It kind of is. He gets pulled out of retirement by like an old friend to, Tina Fey, I guess her writer made him famous because she based a book on him.
Oh,
So,
okay. So it's kind of meta with her being like the Agatha Christie type.
yeah, yeah. You can totally tell that Tina Fey's character is based, Agatha Christie based that on her. Agatha Christie is a remarkable writer because what does she write? Like 90 books, and most of them are good. They don't really lean on, I mean, they lean on a murder mystery formula, but there are surprises in all of them. So, yeah, that's like, who else has that kind of output that's consistently good?
And this was the first time this book was adapted, right? I think that was like one of his things.
I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any other adaptations of it, but I can't say for absolutely sure this is the first. But yeah, Kenneth Branagh's got a long list of stuff to adapt if he wants to keep doing these.
Yeah, as long as someone's still paying for him, I'm sure he'll keep wanting to do them.
Yep. So I got my Severin Films order in from the halfway to Black Friday sale, and I got the new stuff, the 4K of Fulci's The Psychic and the last horror film.
Nice.
And, yeah, John, did you get yours?
I got mine, but I did. I did the last picture show because it had to. That was
last horror film.
Or last horror film. Yeah, because that's the only time they were selling it. I don't know if they're I know they're definitely not going to do it with the Maniac 2 slipcover, but
no, yeah,
I think they said they're not able to do it again. Actually,
it was like a one-off.
So I had to hop on that, but I got Nightmares instead of the Psychic, but I did get the music box for the Psychic, and so I've been playing with my music box.
Oh, I got that too. It's very cute.
It's so cute, and it makes me regret not getting the Psychic as well. So I might have to get that soon. But while it was tight, so it was like I can only get 2 out of the 3. Ugh.
Yeah, no, same here. Those are some heavy duty 4K releases.
But they're gorgeous. I haven't been able to go through the discs yet, but Nightmares and the last horror film are both just like the packaging is Severin.
Yeah, and I watched the last horror film, and it is surprisingly clever and fun because it's basically Joe Spinell as another obsessive guy, kind of like Maniac, but not exactly. And also, and yeah, like it's this film angle because like he's a taxi driver obsessed with this actress and making a horror movie, and he goes to the Cannes Film Festival 1981 where they actually shot guerrilla style. Like a lot of footage with him like weaving through the festival, and like there's these murders happening, but like the question is he the killer or is something else happening? And it's really cool because like Joe Spinell is the lead in this, and it makes me wish that there were more movies where Joe Spinell was the lead.
Did either of you get the Joe Spinell plush?
I did not.
You
no. Dracula's Joe Spinell.
I have too many plushes right now. Like I made the joke one time of like, oh, I lucked out in not getting a throw pillow partner, partner who's into throw pillows. And Lindsay went, yeah, because you're the throw pillow partner. I was like, oh, no, I am, aren't I?
I mean, you just got this the Ghostface plush.
Yeah, I just got Ghostface.
Did you get I sent you that link to the cuddly cryptids. You haven't gotten Mothman yet?
No. We're like I said, we're trying to be good boys now. I got my Ultramans, I got, Ghostface.
Those cuddly cryptids, they're a little pricey though. They're like $30 each, but the Jersey Devil is totally cute. It almost looks like a My Little Pony version of the Jersey Devil. But that's what they are, cuddly cryptids.
It's cute, but I just got one of Goose from Saga, the comic books, and he's so adorable. He's got his little boots on and his little rain overalls. Like you can't top the cuteness of Goose, man. If only he came with an axe.
I saw another cool documentary where you could tell there weren't a lot of horror releases because we're kind of going all over the place. This documentary, it was one of those ones that was for $2 on Vudu, so I rolled the dice. It's called Volcanic UFO Mysteries. Have either of you guys heard of this?
With a title like that, I think you underspent, bud.
What's it about? It's kind of, I mean, it's pretty short too. It's like an hour long, but it basically, the thesis of this is that volcanoes provide the energy to UFOs. And it shows a lot of like pictures or even video of like volcanoes about to erupt, and then a UFO will kind of fly into it, and then the volcano will settle down. It's it basically explores the ties between volcanoes and UFO activity is what it does.
Oh,
But
oh,
I love those kind of documentary, like the In Search of, type things. I mean,
yeah. That that just reminds me. We're super early pre concept on a Sasquatch picture. Just doing some of the research into some of the common threads with Sasquatches and Bigfoots, and like getting more into like the conspiracy theory side of Sasquatches about how they're creatures or beings that have access to interdimensional portals and stuff, and that's why you only catch glimpses and stuff, and like
that's actually true.
oh
But
yes,
the thing
no
is,
no
I,
yeah it
I
is.
don't I don't know if it's so much interdimensional portals, but what it is, and I've said this before, Sasquatch. There are a lot of Native American tribes that believe Sasquatch is can exist on multiple levels, and
Planes and
that's
stuff,
why,
yeah.
yeah, that's why when you go on a Bigfoot hunt, you never find him because he. Well, I say he, but there are female Sasquatches. But Sasquatches, they only reveal themselves to people they want to reveal themselves to. So if you're looking for them, you're not going to find them. But if you're just wandering through the forest with your dog and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm a Sasquatch.
It's like the end to Harry and the Hendersons, you know. I will
Yep.
say this though, I do have a buddy who is working on a doc of Bigfoot doc, and they do have this weird phenomenon on some of these woods where it's like high activity, and he's a skeptic, but he's doing the camera with it. But there's stuff that he can't deny, like in these areas, there's weird phenomenons of like your phone will die, like the battery's dead, and it's like a sudden drain, like your phone, and it's not just like cell phones, it's also like camera batteries, all these other stuff. But then once you leave the area, it turns back on, and like the power level is where it was before. That's a weird thing that you can't quite explain. Like you can explain like, oh, I can't access stuff, or oh, my battery died maybe, but like it coming back, that's a weird angle. But he developed a way to like save to like keep the camera battery. He's an engineering genius. It's annoying how quick he is to figure out stuff, but he figured out a way to like keep the batteries going. So I wouldn't be surprised if his dock like blows up, because it like the stuff that he's figured out how to do to actually be able to record in those areas is insane.
All you have to do is spin the crank on the side, and that'll keep it going. It's not that hard.
We're talking digital here, not analog. uh, Kind of slightly topic. I mean, we covered comic books. I did finally watch the new Justice League Warworld, which is one of the new animated films that's a part of the Tomorrowverse era, because the era that Jay is going through right now, that's the previous like New 52 DC animated universe. And then afterwards, with starting with Superman, Man of Tomorrow, they kicked off a new one, and Warworld is the new one, and it's all right. It's basically like you follow Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman in like different worlds, because like it opens up with Wonder Woman in the world of Jonah Hex. If you remember, he's the face scarred Western character from DC. So it's Wonder Woman in the Old West, and it's like a story there, and then like it suddenly ends, and then next thing you know, you're in a prehistoric world, and then it becomes Batman is like in a heavy metal type prehistoric supernatural mythos world, where there's the character Warlord, who's a DC character who's in like that sci-fi like John Carter type thing, and they fight dinosaurs and stuff, and then Wonder Woman shows up at the end, and then the next story is like Superman in like a 50s alien paranormal or alien invasion, like communist black and white picture, and then like with each story, like towards the end, like one of the other characters ends up, so then you end up with all three in that one. and you're just like, what the hell's going on? It turns out they're all on Warworld, which is Mogul's thing, and like it's like a whole convoluted thing where they're being forced to imagine being in these scenarios so that like they can fuel the giant battle station Warworld off their fear. So you can tell it's very convoluted, but it's fun. I mean, the animation's fun. Like I said, the different styles where it's like the prehistoric planet is like done in like a very like heavy metal type style, and the Western's Western, and then like the alien one is like 50s communist paranoia. Voice cast is all right. They got Jensen Ackles from Supernatural as Batman, and it's okay. It's also like one of DC's animated films, like few R-rated ones, so it gets a little bloody, but it just kind of ends. And I'm like, what was the point of all this?
How long is it? Is it those movies are usually like an hour 20? Is this one?
It's an hour and 30.
Okay,
so it's not too bad. It was just, I don't know. I think I was a little too hyped for it because I was like, yeah, it's gonna be R-rated, it's gonna be bloody, and they got Jonah Hex in it, and like these deep cuts like Warlord and stuff. Like it's gonna be dope. And then like they get to the war world of like, because like the whole time you're watching, you're like, this is leading to something. This is leading to something. And then it gets there, and then it just kind of ends, and it's like, it kind of felt like it felt ambitious, but like didn't lead up to anything. I don't know if there's like going to be another sequel or something, because the Tomorrowverse movies are very like kind of connected, but not super. It's like that, Justice Society, and a few others, but yeah, it's fine.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there another movie? Because that's the way I felt in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I was like, this is leading up to something, and then I'm like, there's no way they can wrap this up in whatever they have left, and then they didn't. There's going to be another part.
Well, with that one, there was very clearly like, stay tuned for part 2. This one, it's like they don't do that, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Across the Spider-Verse ends on a huge cliffhanger. It's like, there's like a big cliffhanger, and then they say, stay tuned for Beyond the Spider-Verse, or whatever it's going to be.
Whenever that comes out.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We'll see.
Wherever anything comes out in these days, we never know.
I got one more slightly kind of adjacent movie. This is the adjacent episode. We're talking about horror adjacent stuff. Telemarketers on HBO, or not HBO Max, on Max. And
it'll always be HBO Max.
Yeah. Anyways, Telemarketers is a 3-part crime docu-series. That's how we keep this related. But it's produced by the Safdie brothers and Danny McBride with his Roughhouse production. So like Jody Hill and them are also producing on it. But it's this it's about these 2 guys who worked at a telemarketing call center, and they would call for like police union FOPs, eventually cancer associations, and all these. And they started filming in 2003. But the thing is like, one of them's a heroin addict, and the other one's just like a juvenile delinquent at that point. This is back in 2003, and they're just shooting a bunch of footage in the office of like all the shenanigans that go on. And the company ends up getting shut down by the government, because what they started doing was saying that they were the police calling to raise money. And it like kicks off like a 20-year journey through these 3 episodes. You follow them like fall out contact with each other, and like get more into the conspiracy sides of it. But it's so good. My first job in LA was working at a call center. It wasn't quite as dungy as this one, because the one in the movie it's in Newark, New Jersey, so of course there's that. But they get really into like how these call centers, they call for the FOP, which is the police union, which is essentially like they're saying like, donate money for fallen police officers or injured police officers and their families, when really you're raising money for their hangout bar, their little clubhouse there, because it's the fraternity of police. And
it's like a frat house.
Yeah, and police unions are corrupt as fuck. It's one of the most corrupt things out there. So like I'm a strong union supporter, except for the police union.
The police union is too powerful. It's like you can literally kill someone and not lose your job.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with this too, is that every time these like telemarketing companies get shut down and stuff, it's the police unions are never touched, even though there's like all these documentations showing that they're working in together and they're coming up with these things. But it's a brilliant documentary, partly because the two main guys who shot and produced it had no business, especially in the beginning, on making a fucking documentary at all. They're really bad at it. Like the early, like you could tell somebody came in like during the last leg of it and like helped like, you know, piece it all together and like make it more professional. But boy, are they endearing. They're just adorable. But yeah, dude, like the conspiracies, the non-conspiracy, like the actual like stuff that they reveal, it's like so messed up and so fucked, but it's so good. I can't recommend it enough. Telemarketers. It's 3 episodes, so it's like a 3-hour watch, maybe. But like, if you're going on to Max, fuck the Flash. Go watch Telemarketers.
And now let's move on to our guest today. Today we've got the cinematographer for the new movie That's a Wrap, Marcus Friedlander. How you doing, Marcus?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for having me.
Cool. Thanks for being here on this early morning. The question I always like to start with when people is, how did you get started in your career as a cinematographer?
Good question. Yeah, for me, I grew up in LA. I kind of just always knew I wanted to work in the film industry in some way, and specifically production. The first time I ever walked onto a set when I was in film school, I just knew. You know, you felt the energy, I felt the chaos, and I was like, yeah, this is where I was meant to be. And didn't know exactly where I was going to land. I knew something I knew I wanted to work in storytelling. I knew I wanted to work specifically in visual storytelling. And it was kind of a bounce between directing, DPing, and writing for a good amount of the early part of my career. When I was in high school, I directed a bunch of shorts that I shot and edited and wrote and, you know, put myself through the ringer and learned a ton of painful lessons that you learn when you first start making movies about all these ideas that are in my head didn't just appear on screen for some reason. And that was a very good learning experience. And then went to film school with the assumption I was going to be a cinematographer. So I went for production as a cinematography major, Cal State Northridge. And then my first semester, I was lucky enough to start working on sets. A friend of mine got me a PA job, which, you know, as these things go, they just kind of bounce and bounce and bounce. And by my sophomore year, I was taking my first real production class after having been worked as a first AC for like 6 months at that point. And one of the questions on my final was, what's a C-stand? I was like, all right, this is a waste of time. Why am I doing this?
Way beyond that.
Exactly. So I switched to screenwriting, and it turned out to be the single best decision I've ever made in my entire life. Recommend it to every single person I've ever talked to. Production is great. You learn a lot, you know, that you may not have had access to. You learn 3-point lighting, those types of things. But in a world where no film school exists, in a world where the internet exists, it seems like such a waste of time to spend that much money, that much time, and that much focus academically on things that you can learn with 5 minutes of your own research. So instead, I learned storytelling. I learned, more importantly, how humans work. I learned how to communicate ideas. I learned psychology and sociology and history and, you know, all of the things that you really get out of a liberal arts degree. And every one of those things made me an infinitely better filmmaker than learning what a C-stand is, learning what 3-point lighting is in a classroom, you know. And from that, I was lucky enough to kind of do a balance of theoretical in class, learning about how the world works, and practical on set, still working as a first AC, still making my way up through the ranks. And then by roughly my senior year of college, I was like, all right, I'm ready to do it. Started a production company with a friend. So I wanted to shoot features, knew nobody was going to hire a 20-year-old to shoot features, who never done it before. So we started producing stuff ourselves. I was able to hire myself as a DP, and the ball was kind of rolling from there. The first one we did was October 2015, and that was my first feature. And the one I'm about to start tomorrow is my 39th feature in what is it, 8 years, something like that. Yeah,
we do want to talk about your resume as we go up, but how is the film program up there at CSUN? I mean, because like John and I have both been to film school. I was at San Diego State, and I loved the program there. But like you said, it's kind of what you get out of it. I mean, like there are people, everybody kind of finds their niche, and I think you're right. I think everybody who wants to go to film school should focus on screenwriting, you know, even if they have no interest in it, you know, even if you want to be a sound guy, take some screenwriting, you know, even if you want to be, you know, a set director or a set designer, take some screenwriting. How's the program up there? Is it a good program?
So I liked a lot of the things about the production program. That first class that I was talking about that had that final, excuse me, also was able to direct. It was really kind of the last thing that I directed before I really fully went into DPing. It was a short film called Hellbent Hot Dogs that about a competitive hot dog eater who takes stomach steroids to win a hot dog eating contest, but the stomach steroids make him massively hallucinate. It was a ton of fun to shoot. It's still something I'm very happy with, and I show it to people when they ask, what have I done? It's a lot of fun. So like things like that I absolutely loved, and I met a couple of filmmakers in that group that I still work with, and tons of people, especially at the start of our careers, we're all throwing jobs to each other. Hey, I got a DP job. You want to come AC for me? Those types of things. All that was incredibly invaluable. But as you get deeper into the program, in my opinion, it was just getting less and less desirable. When you get to the senior thesis program, and this all could have changed. This was almost 10 years ago now, maybe longer at CSUN. But when you got to the senior thesis program, you had to pay $10,000 to continue working. And that wasn't necessarily to direct your movie. That was just, maybe you produced, maybe you first AD'd, maybe you edited, you could have gotten the short end of the stick and still had to pay 10 grand. And that was one of the onuses of me starting a production company instead was I raised this money. Why would I give it to you when I could give it to myself and see, in my opinion, greater returns from it? That being said, a lot of my friends stayed in the production program and have done very well for themselves, and definitely don't want to disparage it completely. It just wasn't right for me.
Yeah, that sounds kind of shady that you have to put up that kind of. I mean, we always. I think the important thing about film school is you have access to equipment and you have access to people, and like you said, whenever we would do projects, we would split it however many people were in the group, and we never had to just put in 10 grand each to make anything. That sounds kind of.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the best use of time, the best use of money. But for a lot of people, it was. A lot of people, it was their first chance to make something, and then they just kind of said, hey, this is what I can do for the rest of their early career. And yeah, so I don't want to disparage it completely. I don't want to tell people don't go to film school because, in my opinion, it's a very, I'm a big fan of the term microcosm of life. Film school, I think, was very much a microcosm of life or a microcosm of the film industry, where the people who wanted to make films met people, connected, worked their way to make films. And the people who expected to just get hired did nothing. That's kind of the way the film industry works. There are some people who will just get a phone call. Like, I'm very lucky to be at a point in my career where my phone rings and I don't really have to reach out to things, which I'm very, very blessed to say. But it took 10 years, to get there type of thing. And
right.
If I hadn't been, that kind of hustle idea of I want to meet everyone I can, I want to connect everyone, let's go get a beer, let's go get coffee, let's talk, what do you want to do with your life? If you're not in that kind of headspace when you're in film school, you're going to have a lot of trouble outside of film school too. And I like the term used, you only get out what you put in. It's just as true for everything in life as it is for film school as well.
Yeah. And definitely the biggest lesson or the most lessons you can get from film is being on set. I know that's a little cliche, but like when you're in the thick of it, yeah. Like you'll learn what a C-stand is real fucking quick. Exactly.
I knew I wanted to do this, but it wasn't until the first time I was on set and felt that energy. I'm a big energy guy, but really just kind of felt and was in that world. I was like, yeah, this is 100% the right chaos for me.
Yeah. You can squeak through film school without really doing much, but you're cheating yourself because, you have to help out with everyone's projects because then you get a feel for everything. The more you can do on set, the more valuable you are. So
yeah. 100%.
Now, your latest film, That's a Wrap, that recently just came out in the last few weeks on VOD and all that. Tell us a bit about this project, because with that, it's a very meta kind of fun slasher, but with like Giallo influences all over. I mean, even when it's meta, the characters point out so much of it. Like there's one point where they're like, "It's a Giallo film."
It's a Jello movie.
A red Jello, like in a hospital? No, Giallo,
Exactly. I love that line. I love that whole beat. Sarah and Ben are just absolutely fantastic in that whole sequence. And I'm very excited for people to see the start of that scene and then the very end of that scene as well. I'm very happy with the way that climaxed.
Yeah. The end was real great to that. But I mean, it's definitely a film that wore its influences on its sleeves. But so with the camera work and whatnot, like how much of the influence of like previous slashers and Giallo films were present?
Yeah, definitely. So references were a big part of this. It was my first movie with Marcel, and I always start with references. What are we doing here? What are we referencing? What are we homaging? What are we metaing? And Scream is his favorite movie of all time. So you can see the very obvious Scream references as well. And then Suspiria, of course, massive reference in many different films that I've done over my career. And it's so fun to continue coming back to the same thing and kind of find a new version of it. I did an art horror film in like 2018 that was a Suspiria reference. That was not Giallo as a whole. It was just about these ideas of these strong color cast type of thing. So then getting into this movie and going very true to the Giallo aspect was lovely, because the color aspect of it is great, but it's really more about the impact of it, the genre-esque aspect of it. And so Marcel said, look at Scream, look at Suspiria, and then specifically look at American Horror Story Hotel, which has kind of been a running joke for us. Every movie we do, it's look at this pilot of this season of American Horror Story, and that's what we're focusing on. So Garden of Eden, it was American Horror Story New York, and then this one there actually isn't quite so much, but a little bit of I'm totally blanking on the name, but the one that takes the alien one that takes place out in the desert, except that one's in black and white. So references were big. The way we move the camera is all related to Suspiria and to kind of Giallo, and at the end of the day, my goal is to communicate the ideas that the director wants, and the director wanted to do Scream with as much Giallo influence as possible, and that's what I think we ended up delivering.
What was the shoot schedule like on this one? Was it a quick shoot or?
Very much so. I think it was 8 shooting days for the whole movie, but it was all took place in the same studio and the parking lot outside the studio, and the way it was written was to specifically take advantage of that. So we spent, I think it was like 2 days in the main party room. And then every day of the shoot was, all right, we're in this room shooting every scene that's in this room. We're in this room shooting every scene in this room. And the way the story is written, it's mostly, all right, today it's about this character story, and then tomorrow it's about that character story. The only day that was very tough was the last day of the shoot, where we shot the whole opening of the movie. We bounced around the entire studio, inside, outside, rain, gags, kills. It was definitely a tough day.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot going on in that opening with the... because just the whole, like you were saying, the whole film takes place in a studio, and what it's because I never want to sound dismissive with this, but it's all takes place in a studio, was shot in a studio. Did you have that problem? Any problems of going, all right, I need this thing. Wait, no, that's a set piece. That's not my actual equipment, or anything like that. Because some people would be like, oh, that's smart because you save money because you don't have to hide the cables or something, but that's not true at all, because you still got to move
exactly.
shit.
So I made a very specific rule for us that we did kind of break at times, but I wasn't super happy with in the edit, whatever. But we made a very specific rule at time that we were going to make a separation between active production and passive production. So if a C-stand card is in the background of a shot, that's fine, but the stand that a light is on that's lighting an actor's face can't be in the shot. And as long as we kind of maintain that balance, we can have as much film gear as we want and never really feel like we're making a movie, so to speak, and ruining the gag. There's only a couple times where, like, I think in the opening, that rain gag thing that happens, you catch a little bit of the C-stand that's holding the rain gag. And I was like, I don't feel like that needed to be in the movie, but Marcel and I talked about it. He's like, no, I do want to kind of lampshade the rain gag aspect of it. It's like, okay, I'll back off on that one. But for the most part, no cables that we see are actually plugged in. No stands that we see are actually holding lights, and it's more, it's all just set deck.
Yeah, because I was looking for that, cause especially when you have the high contrast with the color palette that you're working with and the harsh lights and everything. I'm like, where is it? I know it's coming from up there. Let's see if it gets in the shot, because you can get away with it technically, but I like that that you went out of your way of, this is passive, this is active, so keep the active out of it. And
I didn't want it to feel like a music video, because that's a big part of the music video look, is this very strong color contrast stuff where a light's in frame and you have the actor, the talent cross it, and you do these big flares, and it was like, that didn't really feel like the Giallo version of this story. So, like, for instance, in the party room, we got a big backdrop, like I think it was like about 20 or so feet, fake night sky type of thing. That's a backdrop for one of the scenes. That was hiding all my stands. Basically, we were using that to light, and hiding stands behind everything. Everything that was actually being lit was being hid cleverly, the same way I would do if I was doing, any other movie type, But this one, when we pan across, there's all the gears in the background, and great.
Did you guys reuse the premiere for, because the movie inside the movie that they're wrapping party for is called That's a Wrap? Did you guys reuse the premiere backdrop for the premiere?
Yeah, for the step and repeat for the actual premiere, of course. That just adds into the meta aspect of the film. We wouldn't be completing the story if we bought totally new gear for the premiere.
Well, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. It's just those little like nods and stuff where it's like, oh, they definitely use that banner for the premiere later. That's smart. That's good accounting right there.
It's actually really funny that we're talking about the movie within a movie, because that was one of the key aspects for me for realizing I had worked with Sarah before. I did a movie with her the August, I think it was, before we had shot this one, which was last summer. And I hadn't met Marcel, hadn't met Joe, but did kind of know of them. And I was a bit worried because I don't come from the horror world. I come more from like the indie art world and found horror kind of later in my life. And there's like a little bit of, I don't want to say negative association, but a little bit of genre obsession with a lot of horror filmmakers for the loss of the film itself. And that's something that I get kind of worried about when I get into meta thing. People are so obsessed with the meta that they forget to tell a story. So it was something that I was kind of wary about when I was interviewing with them. And then the first interview, they showed me the movie within a movie stuff, the trailer that they were going to be showing in the thing. And I was like, this is exactly how I would have lit and shot this. Like, what? Like, this is fantastic. This is amazing. Like, clearly you guys know what you're doing. Yeah. I don't need to be worried about anything.
You mentioned your catalog of work. 39 movies in 7 years, I think were the numbers.
Something like that, yeah.
Scrolling through, and this is going to sound like I'm making fun of you, but I absolutely
I know
am
it's coming.
not. I absolutely am not. Our collective favorite movie here at iHorror is Rampage. So, we love movies like this, but let's go over some of these titles. 20.0 Megaquake, Super Volcano, Bullet Train Down, there was one, what is it? Eight, there it is. 8 versus Monster.
8 versus Monster. That I think is the worst reviewed movie I've ever shot.
Alien Conquest, Triassic Hunt. Okay. Are these Asylum movies?
Very much so. Yeah.
Okay. Because and you have to admire what Asylum does. I mean, I think that
I have a lot of love for them. A lot of love and respect for them.
I think that Asylum had Atlantic Rim out before Pacific Rim was out.
Yeah, I mean, Atlantic Rim shot by Jared Cohen, or directed by Jared Cohen, who's a good friend of mine. We've done like a dozen movies together since. That was supposed to be the first one I did with him, and ended up scheduling didn't work out.
Oh, I mean, you've got to love Asylum. So now, what is it like working on these movies? Because especially as a DP, is this all green screen stuff? I mean, what's it like working on an Asylum set?
Yeah, the turnaround must be insane.
Well, I mean, you do like 7 movies a year, so of course.
As we all joke about, we all did terrible things to survive during the pandemic. What I did was make a bunch of 6-day Asylum movies. You did like 10-ish a year for a couple of years. They are quite hectic, usually 5 to 6 days of principal and then 1 to 3 days of pickups once they kind of cut the movie together and figure out what's actually going on. And it's usually mostly entirely practical. There's usually about 75 or so VFX shots budgeted per movie, balloons a little bit. And of those 75, good 20, 30, 40 are in the script, just big wide shots. Here's the planet exploding, here's a missile, those types of shots. And I enjoy making these movies because I'm not directing them and I'm just DPing them. And it's my job, whatever crazy nonsense you hand me, fine. It's my job to light it and shoot it, make it look as good as possible. And I'm very happy to do that. And it was an incredible training course for me, graduate school type of thing, because before I started working on Asylum stuff, I knew how to light a face. I knew how to shoot a scene. But what I didn't know was how to light a stage. And that's really how you shoot these movies as quickly as we shoot them is we'll light, they'll give me an hour and I'll light, instead of lighting just the close-up, I'll light the entire stage, every single spot, everyone stands. We'll have a backlight and a key. And then we'll just shoot for 2 days straight without really relighting anything. It's like the one I just did one for Asylum called Arctic Armageddon, I think it was. And we ended up shooting, I think it was 52 pages in 2 days.
Jesus. See,
because it was it was the B movie aspect of it. It was everyone standing on the bridge of the Star Trek ship. It was a submarine, but it's been essentially Star Trek. Yeah. And 2 cameras on the front, back and forth doing all the masters. And then we moved in on the second day and did all the turnarounds and cleaned up all the close-ups.
See, this is why I will never crap on. I don't like even reviewing. If you ever listen to the show or anything, I'm not harsh because I know like it's gnarly. I'm addicted to it as you know to being on set, but like it's always gnarly. And so hearing like 6-day shoots, to 52 pages in 2 days, like, oh man, that's stressing me out. But it sounds like it can get addicting very quickly.
There is a certain engaging to it. I used to play sports growing up, especially, team sports was always my thing. And filmmaking for me is the team sport that I could do as an adult. And Asylum movies, and I say this all the time, a lot more athletics than there is artistry. It's really just about working hard enough to capture as many scenes as you need to capture in a day. And then if you can make it look good, great. That's a bonus in their mind that they don't really care about because the movie is sold and, they'll make their money no matter what. But I pride myself on, if you look at the reviews on, like IMDb, like whenever I feel too good about myself, that's what I do. I'll read those reviews, just kind of knock me down a peg type of thing. But most of the reviews are like, this is the worst movie of all time, but it looked kind of good. It's like, great. I'm so happy with that.
I got a shout out. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. And we've done some really crazy stuff. Like the 6-day one has become kind of a So when I first started doing it, was like 8 to 10 days, and it was like 7 to 8 days, and then 5 to 6. They keep kind of just walking their budgets down and seeing what they can get away with. Just, they're running a business. It's their world. They can do whatever they want with.
I've worked on a bunch of Discovery reality shows. It's not
exactly.
It's not dissimilar at all.
Exactly. But the craziest one we did, you kind of mentioned it was 20 point. It was Super Volcano, 20.0 Mega Quake, and I think it was ended up calling Ice Storm. Was a trilogy. We shot a block shot all together. So we did. Basically, their plan was, you can do one 6-day movie. What if you do 3 at the same time? Like, that sounds like a terrible idea. So
in the 6 days?
No, in one after another. So
okay.
Originally, it was a different director, and this line producer ended up doing it, who were hired. That director ended up dropping out of the project. So Jared Cohn and I got brought in to do that one. And we looked at the scripts. We looked at the scripts weren't even written yet. We looked at the treatments, and we said, this looks like about a 25-day project. And they said, great, we gave the last team 18 days, but we think it's going to be actually 15 days. Can you do it in 15? And I said, absolutely not. This is a 25-day project. They said, great, we'll compromise and call it 18 days. And then we ended up shooting for 22 days. I was like, yeah, that's... But it was about 16 and a half pages a day for a month for 22 days shooting.
And that's 3 movies. That was a trilogy?
Yeah, it was either going to be 3 movies or a TV show. They hadn't kind of really decided. And it was like, we'll see what the project ends up looking like. And that one they didn't have the script written when we started. And we just kept shooting really without fully finished scripts. And it plays better as a movie than a TV show. 3 movies and a TV show.
With Asylum, is there a time crunch? Because they seem to like to rip things off before the thing they're ripping off is even a thing. So like we were talking about Atlantic Rim, it was out before Pacific Rim. I feel like as soon as it was announced, is there a writer in there, going?
They definitely, they'll see a trailer, they'll see something at Comic-Con, whenever the first time something pops up. And these movies are not, they're usually not too complicated. So you can probably, you can figure out what the movie's actually going to end up being and find your own version of it pretty quickly. Like the first one I ever did for Asylum was Nazi Overlord, which was the J.J. Abrams Overlord movie. And they had no idea what the second half of the movie was. So ours was basically just like Saving Private Ryan. They went to go rescue somebody, and then it turns out that person's like a Nazi scientist with zombies attached, and they kind of worked in zombies somehow. And that was enough. But they pre-sell these movies. They usually have a slate of like 20, 30, 40 in a year that they know that they're going to go through. And by the time we start pre-production, there's a delivery date. So maybe we can push production a day or two type of thing if we're, behind, but not much more than that. Like from inception of the idea to delivery of the film is usually about 4 months or so.
Yeah, they really are like the modern day, like Canon was doing pre-selling the thing ahead of time to certain markets so that you can get the funding. And then that Corman idea of just like, how fast and cheap can we make this, And I have a lot of love for film factories as a concept. The pure capitalism aspect of it just always has fascinated me. And in a world that there is no guarantee where your next job is going to come from in the film world, it's very comforting to have something like the Asylum. Hey, if the whole world shuts down because of a pandemic, I know I can continue working. It's very, very nice to have. And I got a lot of respect for them they just hit their 25th anniversary, I think it was last year. Yeah, that's an unbelievable accomplishment in the film industry, no matter what you're doing.
And that's why I say, it's going to sound like we're making fun of you, but you have to respect the Asylum. 100%, I mean, they get shit done. They have no qualms about it. They know they're ripping off whatever the newest trend is, and that's kind of become their identity.
Exactly. And the pre-sale images, that some of the pre-sale images are a bit absurd, but we have to build the whole movie around them. So I did the Moonfall. They call them mockbusters, by the way. I did the Moonfall mockbuster, which is called Meteor Moon, and they pre-sold that movie on the image of a convertible Mustang flying through space with the top down and two astronauts in it going to fix something. So basically, the whole movie is about getting to that shot, and we get to it, and it's glorious and it's cheesy and it's as Asylum gets. And I had a lot of fun crafting a shot like that and putting a sequence like that together.
Korea's a big fan of Moonfall.
Korea, you know.
No, he's not. He's not at all.
I mean, it just you promised me the moon falling, which was like a decent thing, but like getting there. I mean, your sequence sounds way cooler.
Yeah,
I mean, to be honest, like
Meteor Moon did a better job of getting there.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, but like you think about it for 1 second and they're in space, they turn on an internal combustion engine, they put a car in gear, they create, friction. I mean, just so many things, but whatever, nobody cared. That was
And it's a convertible
in
in space.
It's like the opening to Heavy Metal with like just a convertible going through
exactly.
space. Yeah, that's awesome. See, that sounds like a dream project to me. It's like, yeah, oh, we have an opportunity to live action Heavy Metal. Fuck yeah, let's do this.
That was a 6-day movie that definitely could have. This is another part of the Asylum world that's always so difficult, is because these things are so regimented and so quick. Usually casting happens very, very late because scripts are being reworked. They don't necessarily know if they need the role or not. And because actors are cast like a day or 2 or 3 before, they're usually not done with fittings and costumings by the time we're ready to roll cameras. So on most Asylum movies that I've worked on, the first day of shooting, we don't roll a camera on a 6-day movie. We don't roll a camera for several hours while we're waiting for some sort of costume approval. This was another case that we were ready to do that sequence, and they hadn't approved the space, whatever their space outfits are yet. And so I'm sitting there with the camera looking at my watch like, we really got to shoot, guys. I'm like, yeah, we're on the phones with people, and producers are arguing back and forth. And it's like, this is the time where I wish we had a little bit more pre-production.
Yeah.
Because you really can't, I mean, you can't make Citizen Kane, obviously, but you can make something fun and watchable in 6 days if everyone's firing in all cylinders. But it really does require, and especially the actors, because the dialogue is very technical. It's all sci-fi mumbo jumbo type of thing. And I've worked with some actors, you hand them the script, they go, all right, cool, let's do it. And they'll do a 5-page monologue, and then you give them to some actors, and you can't take the script away from them. They have to read it to get through the scene. But if everyone's firing in all cylinders, you really can make something that's a lot of fun.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Sounds like you guys do it on the reg. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it really was like one a month for most of the pandemic, and now I'm doing a lot of stuff with Tubi, but the strike is going on, so nothing really happening with Tubi. I'm doing a lot of stuff with Lifetime again, and a lot of indie stuff as well. But it's nice to know that if the whole world collapses, I can continue making
Asylum. Yeah, Asylum is still gonna, as long as there's a movie to mock, Asylum will have work for you.
Exactly.
So what's on the horizon for you? What's next that you got coming up?
So about to start shooting a film called Brute for Neon Noir, another Marcel film. Starting tomorrow for the next 2 weeks, and then sometime in October, finishing off the rest, hopefully in October. And then if the strike finishes, I'm going to be back-to-back films in Mississippi, and then Mississippi and / Dominican Republic, which I'm really excited for. I'm going to be first time shooting outside the country. Doing back-to-back 2B action films for like the 2.5 range, which much nicer than the Asylum range that I've been working with a lot recently. So if strike ends, I'll be doing that, and if the strike doesn't end, I'm going back to Kentucky to do back-to-back Lifetime films there instead. So I'm lucky to say I got work either way, but I would definitely like for the strike to be over, and I think everybody else would as well.
So how is Lifetime still working through the strike?
This is all non-union stuff, but
non-union. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a company that I do a lot of Lifetime stuff with, normally for like about 1.5 times the budget or so of the last one we just did. So we did a smaller version of it in Kentucky instead of in LA, and they got tax credits and all that good stuff. And it was a fun movie. David Bonello is the director. He's a great director. I love working with him. It was our second movie together. And it would be nice if the actors were SAG and everyone was getting paid a little bit more. It is what it is.
Non-union world. That's where I lived.
Exactly.
Reality TV. So.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for spending this morning with us. Everyone, see, that's a wrap. I believe it's available now, right? It's out.
Yep.
Yep.
It's on rentable and kind of anywhere you can rent a movie. And then I think in the next 2 weeks or so, it'll be on Avon, the Tubies and those types of worlds.
Oh, great. Cool. All right. So That's a Wrap is the name of the movie. And pretty much any Asylum movie you look for the cinematographer, and it's probably Marcus.
Hopefully not for the rest of my life, but for the moment,
Hey, it's a badge of honor. Like I say,
exactly.
it sounds like we're making fun of you, but there's respect there because we
100%.
love those movies.
Yeah.
We
and
love
that's
them.
the other thing is I made a bunch of small art films at the start of my career that nobody ever saw, that most of them didn't even get released. And people were like, saying, "Oh, what have you been seeing you do stuff? Can I see it?" Well, no, not really, because it's not really out anywhere. And then I started doing Asylum stuff, and I'll travel to, I shoot in kind of a lot of different states now. And like I did a movie in New Mexico and I met the stunt team there, and they're all huge Asylum fans. They had my, DVDs of some of the movies I shot and asked me to sign it. I was like, this is a very weird kind of response, but it's nice we're working in the entertainment business. It's nice to make something that people enjoy watching, and for 2 hours makes their life a little bit better.
Everybody's seen Ape versus Monster.
Yeah.
Too many people have seen Ape versus Monster.
It's always interesting. Like I've worked with big showrunners or something on like something, primetime show, and they'll see my Monster Squad shirt and be like, "Oh, Monster Squad," and like just like chatting about Monster Squad. It's like, you work on like much bigger things. Why are you should be stoked on Monster Squad. So like everyone's a fan of everything, man.
Yeah.
It's only the people that like want to have an ego about stuff or go, "Ugh, you work on something," and if it's not one thing, it's another. So like everyone,
Exactly.
it's,
And at the end of the day, we all got bills to pay. This is, we'd love to all just be artists making just exactly the movies we want, but life's expensive.
Yep.
Hey, as long as rent's getting paid and people are treated well, like
Exactly.
no
and no overtime. Oh, that's the other thing. I just want to mention that real quick. One of the other things I love about Asylum, they're super anti-overtime. Like even 15 minutes of overtime is too much for them. We shoot 12 hours. As soon as we're done, line producer turns the generator off, get off set, everybody go home type of thing. And if they were the type of people who said, "We're doing movies in 6 days, but you have to work 18 hours, they would not have me,
that's even more impressive.
Yes.
6-day shoots and you're no OT. That's respectful.
It's a factory. That's great.
It's a factor.
Where can people find you on the socials to keep up with what you got coming up?
So my DP Instagram page is Marcus_Friedlander_DOP. It's a visual resume for me, so I actually don't post a lot of pictures, just kind of project by project by project. The problem is it takes like 2 weeks to a month to do each one of these. It takes so long. So when I'm not shooting, that's what I'm working on, but I need to like not work for several months to kind of catch up with where I'm at, which I guess champagne problem to have. But I post lots of stories of stuff, lots of things when I'm on set. Definitely feel free to follow me there. And my website as well, MarcusFriedlanderDOP.com, for my reel and resume and all that good stuff.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and everybody see That's a Wrap. For us, our theme song is by Restless Spirit, so go give them a listen, and our artwork is by Chris Fisher, so go give him a like, and you can find us on any of the socials under Ion Horror or at iHorror.com, which is the website we call home. Thanks, Marcus Friedlander, for spending the morning with us and talking about That's a Wrap, and everybody see That's a Wrap. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. So for me, James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
I'm Jonathan Correa.
And I'm Marcus Friedlander.
Keep your eye on horror.